This is the next part in the series of the psychology of high performance. Today we're talking about intentional detachment towards goals. So you're like, Ryan, why would you want to be detached about your goals? Don't you really want to care about them? Well, this comes back to the argument we talked about a little bit like a couple of videos ago about outcome, being outcome focused. Outcome focused is very bad because the reality of success is that you're going to fail quite a bit before you learn what actually works. And if through that process of you failing, you are so focused on the outcome of being successful each time, when you fail, it's going to crush you immensely. And then you may not give up, you may not get back up, and you may just want to give up, right? So having intentional detachment towards your goals is super important because it's going to allow you towards working towards your goals, right? Which is really important. So actually working towards your goals, putting in a lot of effort. But even if those goals don't turn out as you want to be, as you think they're gonna be, as you want them to be successful, right? Even if it fails, you're not gonna beat yourself up excessively. Because we all there's always that situation. It's like, you're like, I'm preparing, I'm really trying, and I go and do it, and it sucks, and it fails, and it's just horrendous. And now you wanna go in a corner, you wanna cry, you never wanna try again, because you're like, I tried my best and it failed. You need to pick yourself up, realize it's not always gonna work. And that just needs to be your expectation. You're gonna try your best and it's not always gonna work. You look at all of the successful people in this world. They've worked so hard and they've still failed. And they've failed multiple times. So what makes you think that somehow no, I'm better than all of them. I'm not gonna fail like that. No, come on, wake up. Be real here. So you need to set your expectation that I'm not always going to just succeed even if I work hard. And it's like, I'm going to work hard to give myself the best chance of succeeding, but I need to understand it's not a guarantee. So that way when it does fail, I'll be like, oh man, that really sucks. I wish it went a different way. But I understand this is part of the process and I'm not super shocked by it. There are people out here who just think that when they fail, it's like, oh my gosh, what happened? Like, this is crazy. I'm never supposed to fail. That's not realistic. If you have the expectation you're never gonna fail, then you're gonna lead yourself in this weird situation where you're like, okay, I don't wanna try anymore because if I try, there's a risk I fail and I don't wanna fail. And that's gonna be even worse than if you just tried and failed and then tried again, because eventually you would become successful through that process. This is really what I mean by intentional detachment. You have to detach yourself from your goals. You cannot put your self-worth, your self-identity on your goals. You can't be like, if I don't read this book by the end of this week, that means I'm a terrible person. That means I suck. That means I'm never gonna be successful. That means I'm gonna fail. If you say those kind of things, you're gonna bring yourself down and it's gonna hurt and you're gonna wanna give up, right? But if you can detach yourself and detach your self-identity from that, why would you just risk and put this all on the line for a goal, right? We're talking about your precious self-worth here, right? You're worth so much more than just a goal. So we're gonna say, okay, I'm gonna work hard towards this goal. I'm gonna try my very best, okay? And even if it doesn't go the way I want it to, that doesn't mean I'm a bad person. I'm still a good person. I'm still going to be successful. It's just gonna take more time and it's part of the process. And that's such a more healthy way of viewing it versus you just put everything on the line, risk it all, and really just crash and burn when you fail, right? Because the problem is you crash and burn, and with that kind of toxic mindset, you're probably not gonna get back up. And getting back up is really what matters to become successful. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. Otherwise, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next video.